Took your time, didn't you, Benny? Benjamin Michael Hunt is officially a Brisbane Bronco once again, inking a 2-year deal for 2025 and 2026, rumoured to be anywhere from around $550,000 to $750,000. It is always hard doing these signing videos, especially when they are a superstar, and there's a lot of grey area, I guess you could say, in terms of how much you sign for, because that really determines when you're a club like the Brisbane Broncos how good of a signing this actually is. I said all the way when this news first broke, in fact I've been saying it to be honest since Ben Hunt requested that release, which feels like decades ago. I thought that Hunt has spent a few lean years at the Dragons. Yes, 2024 was alright for them, but he hasn't been anywhere near his finals footy since his first year at the Dragons, and he played a lot of footy at the Dragons. The rumour was he wanted to go back to Queensland. That sort of maybe wasn't true considering how many offers he entertained from Sydney clubs, especially the Sydney Roosters, where I think most of us thought he was going to end up. But he has gone to the Brisbane Broncos, probably the chance where he's most likely to win a premiership, and it shows what Ben Hunt wants, because he could have stuck around, been a halfback at the Roosters, been a halfback at one of these other clubs, which would have been very exciting, and there's no doubt that Ben Hunt is still probably at the very least, a top 10 halfback in the competition. You're probably more so looking at him being in the top 5. He was just a key part of Queensland's brilliant state of origin run. I know this year didn't work out too well, get sucked in Queensland. But he was just part of the Australian setup. I know he's been dropped from the best 17, but he was still in the squad, so he's still a very, very good player, and it's not often an Australian player is rocking in until 28th of November without a rugby league contract. But hallelujah, it is finally done. Ben Hunt, we don't have to hear about his negotiations in the media anymore. Instead, we can talk about the North Sydney Bears coming back. I do think on the whole this is a good signing for the Brisbane Broncos, but I do think this means they have to win now, because they've got Stags, they've got Cobbo, they've got Blake Mozer. They're the big three names that are getting talked about as being off contract literally as we're speaking right now. And they've got a bunch of other young superstars that are coming off contract. They've just re-signed Ezra Mam on apparently $800K without knowing what's going to be happening there. It looks like they're not going to be sacking Ezra Mam. Go check out my video if you haven't already. Reece Walsh just re-signed on over $1 million. Payne Haas has re-signed on over $1 million. Paddy Carrigan's re-signed on unders, but he still deserves a fair wicket, you could imagine. So it's clear, at least this first era of Madge, where you think Madge is going to be at his best in terms of getting the best out of this roster. It was how good he was at South when he first took over, and I think it's going to be the same at the Brisbane Broncos. They're going to be hard-working. They're going to be working their absolute rugby league asses off to impress the New South Wales Origin winning coach, and that's another thing, is that Madge has got significant aura right now. There's no doubt he does make the Brisbane Broncos roster better. I assume he's going to be playing dummy half, and that's what we're all assuming, which is probably Ben Hunt's better position, and it just goes to show another reason how much he wanted to go back to the Brisbane Broncos, because at the Dragons, at least when he first went there, and he was struggling to form, there were rumours that Mary wanted to put him at dummy half, and Ben Hunt was chucking little hissy fits, as normal Queenslanders do. But like I said, the Broncos are going to have a struggle now, because I don't think both Stags and Cobbo are going to stay. In fact, there's a good chance they probably lose both of them, and Blake Mozer is going to get some serious offers from other clubs with how important number 9s are in the modern game. And not only do you have Ben Hunt there taking his position when he probably should be starting in first grade by now, but he's on a serious wicket, so it's not like Ben Hunt's going to drop to 14 anytime soon, because he's way too good, and at the end of the day, Ben Hunt's better now than Blake Mozer could ever end up being. It is good to see the Brisbane Broncos prioritise their spine. Look, this whole thing could be changed with the Ezra Mam situation, but considering how silent the Brisbane Broncos have been as a club, I still think there's no chance he's getting sacked. But last year, in 2024, they've absolutely had a rough season. They go into next year with pretty much the same core team, which is mainly consistent of parts that made the 2023 Grand Final. And they lost Flegler and they lost Farnworth from that team, but they brought in Ben Hunt. Now, this team going into 2025 may not be as good as that 2023 team, but it gives Ben Hunt the best chance to win a premiership. It's, to be honest, it's going to be the Brisbane Broncos' best chance to win a premiership over 2025 than it's going to be in a very, very long time to come. Now, it is hard to talk about the Broncos because this Ezra Mam situation is clearly hanging over everyone's head, including mine, because it's hard to talk about the Brisbane Broncos' makeup of this roster when their superstar young 5'8", who was inches away from a Clive Churchill in one of the best grand finals of all time. We don't know what's happening with him. I'd like to think at the very least he's going to be suspended for half a season. He probably should be suspended for a whole season, which would be a huge blow because I don't think Adam Reynolds is going to be a Brisbane Bronco in 2025. 2026. And that's the spine the Broncos are going to need to win a comp. At least at the moment, they're going to need Walsh, they're going to need Mam, they're going to need Reynolds, and they're going to need Ben Hunt at number 9. That is a beautiful mix of both experience and youth in different positions. And Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds are going to be handing Reece Walsh in some of the great open space of all time. And you could only imagine with how good Ben Hunt has been at number 9 for Queensland, when you chuck him with Payne Haas as well as all those Queensland boys like Paddy Carrigan, you could imagine the damage that they're going to do in the middle already. Because that was the one bright spot last year, is despite how mid the rest of the team was, the Fours were at least having a crack, at least for the first 2/3 of the season. Like I said, you can probably keep this great spine together, but there's going to be a teething period where they do move on Reynolds. There'll be a period where they chuck in Kobe Black or get a new halfback. They're going to need to rebuild those combinations once again, bring up a few more outside backs that are young guns, but they're not going to have Staggs, they're not going to have Cobbo. If they can keep all three, then the Brisbane Broncos are back up to some Sydney Roosters tactics, which, to be fair, the Broncos are more than capable of. But I've got a crazy rugby league theory I just want to chuck to you guys before I sign off at the end of this video about Benjamin Michael Hunt. Now, if any of you legends follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you would have already seen this, so go to the comments and let me know how much of a rugby league genius I am now. Now, quite frankly, I don't believe the 550k. There's a minimum value that players have to sign for, and the rumor was when the Ben Hunt first got released by the Dragons, the minimum contract requirement was going to be around 900k. So I don't think Ben Hunt and the Broncos have finessed the NRL that much to have him sign for 550. Because I got no doubt the Sydney Roosters would have offered him around 700 to 800k, especially after they got rid of Terrell May, because that was the whole thing about the Sydney Roosters, and it made so much sense for why they wanted Ben Hunt. Sam Walker was going to be out for a long time, and then there are rumors around Brandon Smith. So once Sammy Walker comes back, you can just chuck Ben Hunt in at number 9, and he can steer them to finals footy at least for 2025. Now, the Sydney Roosters will not be going into next year with the roster they've currently got at this point of the preseason. They are sitting for the first time in ages on heaps of legitimate cap room because they've lost Manu, Suoli'i, Kiri, JWH, and everyone else as well as their mothers. I'm implying that the Sydney Roosters are going to make a splash, and they're going to probably do it with the halfback position, because why else would they release Terrell May, who's one of the best up-and-coming forwards in the entire competition. Now, we are all assuming Ben Hunt is going there to play number 9, but they've got Blake Mozer and they've got Billy Walters, so it doesn't make salary cap sense, because I think Walters just re-signed recently. I know that was under his dad, but on the whole, he's been a very solid number 9 for the Brisbane Broncos. So I do think that having Mozer, having Hunt, and having Billy Walters on that sort of wicket, who can all play pretty much similar positions outside of Mozer, who's an out-and-out number 9, is not great salary cap management. And I alluded to earlier that the fact is Ben Hunt is still a great halfback. He's been the Dragons' best player for bloody ages at this point. I know diehard Dragons fans are celebrating the departure of Michael Benjamin Hunt, but I do think that they would know that he's been their best player, despite even how good Zach Lomax became, but I guess they hate Zach Lomax too. He's still going to be playing for Queensland next year. He's more than likely probably going to be around the Australian setup at the end of this year if he has a good season once again. So who's to say he's not there going to play halfback, especially when Adam Reynolds, it seems at all points, are indicating that the Brisbane Broncos are not going to keep him around beyond his current contract. And with all the injury concerns, if Ben Hunt is on a smaller wicket than Reynolds, wouldn't it make more salary cap sense to play Ben Hunt, who is a better halfback, where Reynolds is, and then keep Blake Mozer developing and keep him as the long-term number 9? And it's not like there's nowhere for Adam Reynolds to go, because there's the Sydney Roosters. Reynolds could just go down there, come back to Sydney if he wants to, because he's sick of Brisbane, and he can help lead the Sydney Roosters back to 2025, and he can just chuck Sam Walker in as a 5'8". It is a wild take, but I do think from the Brisbane Broncos side, it makes sense as a business. For the Sydney Roosters, it means they get the halfback that they want, and it means the Brisbane Broncos salary cap doesn't actually change too much, and you're arguably getting a better player. Now, the difference is Adam Reynolds is a proven winner with how good he is, and despite how good Ben Hunt is, he hasn't really won with the Dragons. It's just a take. I just think the Sydney Roosters are about to make a splash, and I do think something crazy is going to happen before the start of next year, because there's no way the Sydney Roosters are going into next year with Chatty Daddy Townsend and Sandon Smith, with the greatest respect. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section down below, do you think I'm crazy for that stupid rugby league theory? Do you think Ben Hunt's going to be a good signing for the Brisbane Broncos? Let me know in the comment section. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.